I'm Screw Griffin Tarpley, coming up in about 20 minutes. Let me get back into today's top story. What has Ray McGovern, former top CIA analyst of Reagan and Bush Sr., said on this radio broadcast in the last 2 years? That he believes the #1 way they're going to try to start a war with Iran is by staging a Strait of Hormuz event. In fact, he's been saying that for the last 2 years. At the end of Bush and the beginning of Obama, he actually started saying it here on this broadcast 4 years ago. And then about a year after he said that that was the intel he was getting, it came out in the mainstream news, New Yorker magazine, MSNBC, that Cy Hirsch, the Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, investigative journalist, had sources inside the White House that told him that Cheney wanted to paint up fake Iranian patrol boats and have the Navy SEALs attack our ships. And then it turned out that right at that very time, months after Ray McGovern said this on this show and also wrote about it, that they did try to launch a fake attack on our ships by having patrol boats come out and then fake radio broadcasts saying, we're going to launch missiles on you in 60 seconds. And remember, that was all over the news, and they showed telephoto video footage of the patrol boats several miles away claiming that they'd transmitted that they were going to do this. They want to go to war with Iran. Ahmadinejad, of course, yesterday said that he has intel that the United States and Israel are planning to strike Iran in the next 3 months. We've got the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying they're getting ready to greenlight an attack. Of course, 2.5 months ago, that was the intel from Bilderberg Group that they are planning and have now greenlighted an attack on Iran. They need this to politically get people to rally around the flag when we're attacking another nation and forget about the Depression, forget about Obama's plunging approval ratings. This is one of the false flags that they are definitely developing. And now Bloomberg reports this morning, Kurt Nemo's got an excellent report giving you the backstory and the history of it, dealing with all of this. And so this is extremely important information. Possible false flag. Japanese say oil tanker attacked near Strait of Hormuz. Now let's go back, though. This happened this morning. There was a series of naval standoffs between the U.S. and Iran in the Strait of Hormuz in December of 2007 and January of 2008. The Pentagon accused Iran of threatening the U.S. Fifth Fleet, but this was later contradicted by the Navy, Admiral Fox Fallon, the head of CENTCOM, who then resigned, refusing to attack Iran. According to Press TV, a naval officer had literally given the order to fire on the Iranian ships. Vice Admiral Kevin J. Cosgriff, commander of the Fifth Fleet, said the U.S. ships received a radio call that was threatening in nature to the effect that they were closing on our ships and going to attack and that U.S. ships would, quote, explode. Iran characterized the radio communications as a standard transmission between ships and went on to say that they did not put out that transmission. Later, our media claimed it was some type of radio prankster doing it. Called the CIA. It goes on July 8, 2008, a mid-level clerical aide to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah al-Khamenei, said the U.S. shipping in the Persian Gulf will be Iran's first targets, and they will be burned if there is an attack on Iran. It goes on. In July of 2008, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh told an audience at the Campus Progress Journalism Conference that the Bush administration officials held a meeting with Dick Cheney's office to discuss ways to provoke war with Iran. There was a dozen ideas proffered about how to trigger a war. There was one that interested me most, and this is a quote, was, why don't we build in our own shipyard, build 4 or 5 boats that look like Iranian PT boats, put Navy SEALs on them with a lot of arms, and next time one of the boats goes in the Strait of Hormuz, start a shoot-up, said Hersh, quoting Cheney. And now Japan is announcing that their biggest oil tanker line, the second biggest in the world, but the biggest for Japan, has been attacked, and they believe it was some type of terror attack, an explosion up against the side of the boat, blowing out a bulkhead and damaging some life rafts. So this is very, very serious information, and this boil-down story by Kurt Nemo is vital to get out to everyone ahead of the media now starting to latch on to this and promote the fact that Iran has attacked a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Very, very serious developments on that front. Continuing, Israeli defense chief offers warnings on Iran and Lebanon. So this echoes what Ahmadinejad saying about 2 Middle Eastern countries to be attacked. From my intel, I believe it's going to be Iran and Syria, perhaps Lebanon as well, maybe even Gaza. This is out of the Washington Post. Israeli defense chief offers warning on Iran and Lebanon. Israeli defense chief Ehud Barak is due to arrive in Washington, bearing 2 warnings for American policymakers. Sanctions won't thwart Iran's push for nuclear weapons, and Israel will strike directly at Lebanese government institutions if Hezbollah launches rockets at Israel towns. In a wide-ranging interview, Barak, who has become one of Israel's most frequent official guests in Washington, outlined his vision for arresting Iran's nuclear drive, coping with Hezbollah threat, and forging a deal with the Palestinians. And he goes on to warn those countries that they may strike them sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, continuing to look at the Middle East, Russians say war with Iran is completely unacceptable. Dmitry Babich, Russia's Profile magazine, has given an interview saying a war in Iran is absolutely unacceptable for Russia, and Russia will do everything to prevent that possibility. On the other hand, Russia is also afraid of Iran getting close to acquiring nuclear weapons. So a hedged bet there via statements by Russian government officials. Iran has gone on in their official press TV organ, press blowhorn, to say Iran's independent of world powers. Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said the Islamic Republic has gained independence, withdrawing itself from the circle of influence of economic powers. And he went on to say they're preparing to be attacked by the United States and or Israel. Both. Press TV is also reporting something that I know to be true, because Bush 4 years ago had the White House put out a press release reporting what Cy Hirsch and others had said several years before that, that thousands, off and on, of U.S. Special Forces, Arabic-speaking, are all over Iran, staging terror attacks against military and police installations, dams, schools, trying to elicit a response by Iran inside Iraq, coming across the border there, just punching him in the nose, slapping him in the face, rubbing it in, trying to get them to respond so World War III can be launched. And here's the Press TV headline: U.S. funds sedition leaders to topple Iran. A top Islamic cleric says the U.S. has given the leaders of sedition $1 billion in order to topple the Islamic establishment during last year's post-election unrest. Yeah, that's been done twice in the last 8 years. I have acquired documents showing the Americans paid $1 billion to leaders of sedition through Saudi individuals, the archenemy of Iran. They're Sunni, Iran Shiite. That's why it's so asinine to say Iran is funding al-Qaeda when al-Qaeda is CIA and out of Saudi Arabia. It's the opposite. It's Sunni, not Shiite. Iran is Shiite. Shiite and Sunnis hate each other more than they hate the West. I mean, do you understand that? I have acquired documents showing that Americans paid $1 billion to leaders of sedition through Saudi Arabian individuals who are currently the U.S. agents in regional countries. The ILNA quoted head of the Guardian Council, Ayatollah Ahmed Jannati, as saying yesterday, these Saudis who spoke on behalf of the U.S. told the opposition figures that if you can overthrow the Islamic establishment, we would pay another $50 billion, he added. The opposition leaders staged riots with the help of the U.S., and they were confident that the Islamic Revolution would fail with the assistance of the U.S. because it is soft war, which causes people to break away from the Islamic system, he explained. The Iranian cleric further pointed out the system, which does not enjoy the support of the nation, will collapse automatically. Ayatollah Jannati said Saudi Arabia is obeying the U.S. in a servile manner, and added that Iran is the only country which stood by itself and chanted death to America with strength. You know, these Ayatollahs on record were put into power against the Shah. There was a arms for hostages deal. It was a way to double-cross Jimmy Carter. And that's all been declassified. It was all staged. So I don't trust these guys any more than I trust the globalists that run our country. And they play into this paradigm of death to America. Death to America? America's been seized by the very banks that ran your country until '53. and then re-overthrew it for that brief time after 53. And so death to America? It's the globalists that are killing the United States. Nevertheless, either way you slice it, dice it, any angle you look at this, you can see World War III being prepared. You can see global crises, financial, economic, military, cultural, all being triggered. The dominoes are now in motion. And all of us have to realize that world government is being formed. A new planetary bank that you pay your carbon taxes to, that controls your domestic government. Every major nation from Greece to the United States that's fallen to these bankers is passing or has passed legislation to give the banking cartel that created the trillions in derivatives total power over the economy.